Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, join me, Rob McConnell, as together we'll investigate the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology here on the X-Zone Radio TV show on XZBN and the X-Zone TV channel on Simul TV. Since 1990, the X-Zone Radio TV show has been the place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. Together, we'll investigate UFOs, aliens, ghosts, Bigfoot, psychic phenomenon, lake monsters, conspiracy theories, government cover-ups, the truth embargo, alien abductions, ESP, haunted locations from around the world, and so much more. With over 28 years of broadcasting and more than 4,500 individual guests, the X-Zone is truly a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality, as evidenced by the credibility, integrity, and professionalism of the guests that we bring to our international audience. If you have seen a UFO, had a close encounter, seen a ghost, Bigfoot, lake monster, or a story that you would like to share or have investigated, contact me, Rob McConnell, by sending me your email to xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, or you can call toll-free 1-800-610-7035, extension 143, and on Skype, X-Zone Radio TV. For more information on the X-Zone Radio TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, visit www.xzoneradiotv.com or www.xzonetvchannel.com or simultv.com and xzbn.net. Until next we meet here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, always remember, X-Zone Nation, keep your eyes to the sky and your heart in the light.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Paranormal Stakeout. I'm Larry Lawson, your host and guide on our continuing journey into the other world to find out what really does exist on the other side of the veil. And as always, I'm coming to you from the headquarters of the X-Zone Radio and Television Broadcast Network in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. And I'm speaking to you from the studios in the Southern Command Post of the X-Zone Nation in beautiful Vero Beach and Fellsmere, Florida. Tonight's guest, Chris has been with us before, but tonight's going to be, I think, a topic that while many of us may have thought about it on the side, it's really starting to come to the forefront. We're going to be talking about modern technology and the paranormal and the Antichrist. Chris was introduced to the paranormal world at a young age while living in Leadville, Colorado, an historically significant mining town from the 1880s. It was here that he began to witness shadow people that he was also able to interact with. It wasn't until sometime afterwards he found that his home was located near the sites of collapsed gold and silver mines that were witness to many horrific deaths. At age 11, his family moved to Southern California, where he continued to experience paranormal activity. He later found his calling as a park ranger, receiving his degree in outdoors law enforcement and becoming a law enforcement park ranger in the state of California. After he was transferred back to Colorado, he began to hone his paranormal investigative skills in the historical building and sites found around the parks. In 1996, Chris founded his own paranormal investigative team, Anubis Paranormal Research Organization, or APRO. With a vision of working with other paranormal teams around the world to develop a cooperative effort towards research and investigation, he hopes to someday find scientific proof of what does lie on the other side. Christopher George, welcome back to Paranormal Stakeout, my friend.
Larry, it's always a pleasure to be on your show, believe me. We always get into some very good discussions and debates, so it's always I always look forward to coming on the air with you.
Well, thanks, Chris. Now, you got you started, just to kind of refresh the audience a little bit. You spent a lot of time working in Southern California and had a particular connection with the Queen Mary, if memory serves, the ship there.
That's correct. I was always drawn to the Queen Mary for some reason. many as a youth, I would actually sneak aboard. I knew the ship so well that I could sneak aboard and go into the depths of the ship where nobody was supposed to be. And so it was always an experience for me. And every time I went on board the Queen Mary, I never, ever was disappointed in the amount of paranormal activity that was there.
And you worked quite a bit with the renowned Peter James, I believe?
Yes, actually, Peter and I became good friends completely by accident. It was in one of those little ventures that I was on that I was actually crawling near the rudder, and I mean in these very, very small crawl spaces. And when I came out, I was caked in rust and dust and everything else. And so as I was moving along, I came around the corner, and here was this gentleman standing there. He quickly looked at me, shocked. I looked back at him, shocked. I thought, oh, crap, I'm caught. And he looked at me and said, what are you doing here? And I said, well, what are you doing here? And he says, well, I asked you first. And I said, well, I'm looking for ghosts. And Peter looked at me, and he said, well, you know what? So am I. And that started a really very close relationship. And Peter was one of those individuals that was able to actually draw the spirits verbally. You could audibly hear them. And there was one in particular that he was always talking with, and this was little Jackie. And Jackie was believed to have been a child who apparently died on the Queen Mary, either by drowning or some other means. A lot of the records had been lost through the years, most by purpose, others by accident. So we really weren't sure exactly where Jackie fit in. But one of the things was she was always by the pool, the first-class pool. So that's where he would make most of his contacts with her. And then, ironically, one night I was filming a video while I was on board. Nobody else around. And at the end of the hallway, I didn't even realize this until I viewed the footage. There was a little girl at the very end, and she started coming towards me. But then I realized she didn't have any legs. So I believe it was Jackie saying hello to me. So, but Peter was excellent, and unfortunately he passed away quite a few years ago. But I truly believe that his spirit's still there on the Queen Mary.
And he was one of the first television paranormal investigators to actually, if memory serves, to get an EVP that was audible for the television. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. Yeah, he was. They were doing a segment on sightings, and that show was back in the 80s. And they did a whole series on Peter just because of his interactions on the Queen Mary. And he traveled around the country to different locations, but his idea of the paranormal was that there was really no heaven and earth. It was just the other side, and that spirit could go wherever they wanted and interact however they wanted. And, there's a lot of conjecture one way or the other. Of course, we don't know because in the end we will, but...
right now nobody knows for sure.
No, and that's what we are doing. That's why we are in the paranormal field, in order to try and find that science and religious aspect and equal to find out knowledge.
Yeah, and you've taken an interesting new turn with some of your recent studies, and you got started like most of us with the, shall we say, standard ghost investigation or paranormal investigation techniques, but you've headed down a new track in recent times. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, of course, most paranormal investigators will use their equipment, and it can be a varied assortment of different tools. But the basic line is that they're all electronic. And, of course, we've had a lot of success with interconnection and communication with the other side based upon our technology. And our technology is increasingly getting better, as we all know. 10 years ago, we didn't have smartphones like we do today. And, in fact, a smartphone is nothing more than a miniature computer. And we never knew some of the things that were coming down the road. Some of the breakthroughs that we've had with our technology is increasingly helping us to communicate with the other side. But I started to think about this process. and looking back through history as far as how we started. And I discovered some very interesting things that on the forefront you really wouldn't look at unless you became familiar or you basically started to realize what it was that was in the connection processes.
Mm-hmm.
And as I started to venture down that road, as you say, I discovered a alarming aspect that kind of bothered me a bit. And that was the amount of social media that is out there today. As we all know, everybody's on Facebook, everybody's on Twitter, everybody follows the leader, so to speak. If somebody says something bad, say it about the president or some other person in government or a celebrity, everybody jumps on that bandwagon. They no longer do any research themselves. It's almost as if they're drawn in.
It seems like that, doesn't it? And it's almost like it almost grabs them, hypnotizes them, controls them.
Exactly.
It's amazing. And I was just talking with a dear friend of mine just a little while ago about what in the heck is going on in this country with politics and social media and what's happening. It's crazy.
Well, you see it. I mean, they talk about the left, they talk about the right, you talk about social justice warriors, and it's not a discussion anymore. It is a violent, intrusive interaction, which people are getting hurt because of a lot of this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so you got to wonder what is stemming from this. And this is where my path started to take me. I thought, my goodness, why are we becoming such a horrific world? And it dawned on me. You look at today's kids, how they are always on their smartphones texting. They never interact anymore. It's always texting.
Nope. Mm-hmm.
And or the social medias. And I was out to dinner one night, and I looked over, and there was a couple, a young, not too young, maybe mid-20s, and the young lady was sitting on one side of the table, which was about, your average size of about maybe 4 to 5 feet, and the boyfriend was on the other. They both had their cell phones out, and I saw the one text, and then I saw the boy laugh. And then I saw him text, and then I saw the girl laugh. I never, ever saw them interact or speak. They were talking to each other via this text.
Mm-hmm.
And they were only 4 or 5 feet away from each other. And again, you go by the high schools, you don't see the kids interacting with each other. They're all sitting around completely void of each other, engrossed in this computerized system that we call texting. And I thought, we're losing our humanity. But why are we losing our humanity? And I started to really start to think about this. And, a lot of times you call it the sixth sense, and it comes
mm-hmm.
to you from out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to realize, I thought, wait a second, there's got to be a connection to this.
And that I'm going to kind of put you on hold there because we're about ready to go for our first break. And that connection is interesting, and I'm going to want to explore more of that in just a moment. And I also want to talk about how does this connect with the paranormal. So, folks, stay with us. This is Paranormal Stakeout. We'll be back right after these messages.
It's hard to listen to the news without realizing we're living in volatile, unprecedented times. Yet never has there been such an opportunity to transform the human condition. As old structures fail, where can we find the guidance to co-create a better way? Find Your Path Home is an ever-evolving, leading-edge information, education, and healing resource center designed to support and guide you on your path to unity and enlightenment. Based on sound principles employed by shamans worldwide, we provide techniques that can support you through the current transitions, offering online shamanic classes, international long-distance shamanic healing sessions, complimentary Mission Evolution radio episodes and Stairway to Heaven TV vignettes, seminars, retreats, and much more. All of this can be found on findyourpathhome.com.
So I was watching the X Zone TV channel last night when I was abducted by aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. simultv.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a simultv.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she'd come from the hereafter to tell me about simultv.com. She even spelled it out for me. simultv.com, sonny boy.
simultv.com.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
simultv.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about simultv.com. simultv.com.
And we are back on Paranormal Stakeout with my guest tonight, Chris George, talking about internet technology and the other side. Just before the break, Chris, you were talking about how people don't communicate anymore; they text, and I certainly see it. Being in law enforcement, I'm really having problems seeing folks being able to talk to one another anymore because they're so tied up with the internet. But I wanted to mention something else before you started down the road again. One thing that I have definitely noticed with all the wonderful things that come with the internet, I also have found another dark side to it, and that it has allowed people to be something they're not. And what I mean by that is in years past when I was growing up, and I'm sure when you were growing up, people knew they couldn't do or act a certain way because society frowned upon it. And you didn't do it because it was wrong. But the internet, I have found, has allowed people to break down those social moral barriers and act out in a fantasy way that has also created so much harm to people. So I see that as another example of how electronics in this age of texting and social media has taken away some of our moral values, maybe? I don't know if that's a good way to put it.
It has. It really, truly has. You talk about the kids in high school that are cyberbullied. The dark web, for instance. For what it's worth, the internet is a great resource. But because you're behind a screen and you're not looking into the eyes of the other person, you can be whomever you want. You can become a fantasy character. You can become the world's worst bully. You can pretend to be somebody you're not. You can forge documents. It has gotten so out of hand in that regard. But the question lies, what is the boundary? What is the
There are no boundaries. That's the problem.
Exactly. And there's no consequences for the actions, unless, of course, that individual gets caught. And, of course, as it always in law enforcement, nobody's sorry until they get caught.
True.
And I'm sure you've had that happen. Oh, I'm so sorry about this, that, and the other. But they don't do it, of course, because there is no one. You can completely hide yourself. You can completely steal on the internet. All of these negatives that have taken place since its inception. Again, one of the greatest technological advances there is, but are we going down a very dark path? This could be a typical story out of the Twilight Zone in many regards. And this is where I started really looking at in-depth aspects of what has been going on. Now, as scientists, as you and I are, and then many other parapsychologists, we like to look at the scientific reason for everything. We like to look at the basis of why, what, where, and how. And I started to look at this with the option of why. Where does it start? What was it that created it? And I started to think about all of this horrible activity. And of course, everybody says the end of times, the end of days. And we kind of brush that off. But when you start to think about it, we in the parapsychological world are dealing with the unknown. We're dealing with elements of religious aspects. People who say, "Oh yeah, God doesn't exist, the devil doesn't exist, it doesn't have it. Demons are on most every show." Well, if you think about it, that's the whole basis, the whole root. The biggest supernatural individual in our belief systems is God.
Yep.
And if God exists, God isn't evil. So there has to be a counterpart, which is Satan, the devil. And the stories of the eternal rivalry, the eternal war that continues to go on until the end of days. And that led me to kind of the aspect. And before I go on to this point, I don't want to offend anybody's religious belief or say one thing. This is all theory. But if you look at it and you start to kind of see where I'm going with this, you might be drawn to say, wait a minute, I may have something here. And I started looking into Revelations, and I started noticing all of those things. And one of the aspects that is always talked about is the mark of the beast.
Okay.
Now, nowhere in the Bible does it say the devil is a man. It always talks about the devil as being a beast.
Okay.
And the mark of the beast is 666, as we all know.
Correct.
And so I started thinking about it. How did that begin? How did that start up with that ideology? And I started looking back through the Hebrew elements, the writings, and so forth, and I discovered something very, very interesting. That in the ancient Hebrew, 666 is written as WWW.
And people have pointed that out several times, as I'm sure you're aware. That topic has come up several times. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, it's in recent times. Not scientists, but historians have found it. I think it was initially they thought it was a V or a Z, but in recent times they've discovered that letter is actually closer to W. So I find that interesting.
It is. And of course they always say, and then that could be coincidental. Okay, all right, World Wide Web, www.666.
Yeah, it's just coincidence.
But then I started reading more. Of course, everybody that was going to follow the beast would be marked by the beast with the 666. Okay? Now, as I started, and of course it was going to be, the mark would be on the head. And that's how it's written. The mark would be somewhere located on the head. Now, if you've got a smartphone, where are you going to put that smartphone when you're talking to somebody?
Generally to your ear.
Exactly, which is right at your head. Today, we pay for most of everything we do via the internet. Okay? Again, that was supposed to be you were to pay with the mark of the beast. So everything is basically, people hardly pay with cash anymore. It's always either your debit, credit card, or even now with smartphones, you can just pull it up and tap a keypad and have it transmitted.
Okay.
And so those are the things. And this goes back to how kind of where we're going with this technology. And as we use it, the more aggressive we become, the more antisocial, the more followers we have become to this technology, which is telling us to act certain ways, to behave certain ways, and to do certain things. And in the, as far as the devil's best trick is to make people believe that he doesn't exist. But as you know, and I know as parapsychologists, we have gone into places that are just foul, that reek of evil. I've had situations and investigations that I truly believed were demonic in nature.
Okay.
And there are certain aspects to that. It's like, today, people always talked about not using the Ouija board, which is absolutely, unequivocally a no-no. I wouldn't use a Ouija board for all the tea in China because it opens up that doorway. And if you open up that doorway, you don't know what you're getting. You may think you do, but either Uncle Phil is going to come through or something else disguised as Uncle Phil. And once you open that Pandora's box, it's very, very, very difficult to close.
Well, let me change gears on you just a quick second to get your thought on something, because I had this question posed to me the other day. Whether you're using a Ouija board or a K2 meter saying, is anybody here to contact me, what do you see as the difference?
Well, there is no difference, realistically, because your intent is to communicate with something on the other side. So you're inviting, and that's the key word right there, inviting, whether it be through a Ouija board or through our instruments. And the thing is that parapsychologists, for the best part of us, are trained on what to do, on how to prepare ourselves for investigations. Saying a prayer to St. Michael for protection, envisioning white light around us, doing our best to keep us safe and to not allow that negative or even the positive spirit to attach itself to us. So we do actually walk that fine line. Our instruments help us identify, whereas a Ouija board really doesn't. There's probability that maybe somebody is moving it or whatever, but instruments usually tend to not lie when we pick up readings. But we are still asking for something to contact us. And again, it could be a very positive, loving spirit, or it could be something very dark and sinister. And, when you look back in through time, one of the creators of the computer, a man by the name of Alan Turing, his whole prospect of making the modern-day computer, not the analytical computers of previous past. Those were basically the count numbers. But
well,
I'm
going to put you on hold here for just a second, my friend. We're getting ready for our second break. Very interesting comments, and we're going to talk more about this when we get back. Folks, this is Paranormal Stakeout. My guest tonight is Christopher George. We're talking about social media and the Antichrist. Stay with us. We'll be back right after this.
They are here, and they've been here for thousands of years, making their presence known in the shadows. They might be seen by a lonely motorist on a deserted road late at night, or by a frightened and confused husband in the bedroom he is sharing with his wife. But who are they? What do they want? Why are they here? Perhaps most concerning, has the government been aware of their presence all along? The new book by Eli Marzulli, UFO Disclosure, the 70-year cover-up exposed, delves into the world of UFOs. Can full disclosure be soon? Order now and receive a free hour and 37-minute DVD on the UFO phenomenon. UFOs are real. Get both the book and the DVD, a $40 value, for only $19.99. To order your book and DVD today, go to lamarzulli.net. That's LAMARZULLI.net. Rob McConnell here, presenting an overview for Nicholas Paul Jennings, author of a fascinating book, Amen. It presents facts revealed by Egyptologists, facts that enable us to understand why Amen is the beginning of creation of God. It provides recommendations for religious leaders of the major religions to unify their beliefs and teach the Word of God. Love one another. Amen informs people how mankind conceived God. It was the Egyptians that developed the concepts of a soul, a hereafter, and Son of God. And finally, After the worship of many gods, they conceived the belief in one universal God, the maker of all there is. For more information, visit www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com.
You have heard of the X Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X Zone, sci-fi, and horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
And we are back with everybody, with my guest tonight, Christopher George, here on Paranormal Stakeout. Okay, Christopher, there's just no doubt in my mind that there are so many things that have happened in our world today because of technology, both good and bad.
Right, absolutely.
I totally agree with where you're coming from with the connection with the other side and the Ouija boards. Totally agree with you. But tell me how the web, social media, is connected with the world of the paranormal. Now, I understand what you're saying about the evil and the influence,
right?
But give me some more meat as to how it's connected.
Yeah. Well, this goes back many, many years, like I said, with Alan Turing, who actually the father of what we call the modern computer. He designed this system in order to contact the other side. He was basing his information on Edison's original phone to the dead. And he wanted to see if he could actually develop a system based upon actual electricity and the interconnection and utilizing basic programming so that spirits would be able to reach out, connect with that electrical aspect and that programming in order to communicate back and forth.
Wait a second. So what you're telling me is Turing actually began the development of the modern day computer as a paranormal experiment?
Exactly. He envisioned not only contacting the other side, but he was one of the first forerunners of saying that he could possibly integrate into these computers basic understanding, our version of artificial intelligence. And if that was the case, if the computer could think, it could communicate thinking-wise to the other side.
And that was his motive for developing it.
Exactly.
Interesting.
And of course, he didn't have much luck in that, and so as of course things occurred, his ideas were then further spent down the line to other developers to where we are today with our modern computers. And we have made such advances in the time period of when he started, which was basically 1945, I believe. It was either 43 to 45. And that was when he was really focusing on trying to communicate to the other side, just like Edison was when he was originally trying to make his phone, his spirit phone, his ghost phone, in order to communicate. But the basis is electricity. Electricity makes everything move in our world. Not only machines, but human beings. And so he thought that interreaction would be able to assist those energies in order to communicate. And as we know today, we have computers that have basic artificial intelligence. They can think faster than, of course, we can. But communication from the other side has happened. There have been cases where spirits have communicated through the computers, messages being left, different types of interaction. Pictures will show up, or faces will show up on the computer screen. And again, that's that aspect of, if some of your listeners have ever heard of the ghost in the machine aspect.
Okay, that's where I was going to go.
This is kind of where this is happening, is that there is this interconnection between our physical world and the supernatural world. And the conduits are our tools. Whenever we go out on an investigation, we are always trying to communicate, to try to solve these mysteries. We use our tools. We use our machines in order to communicate. And this is a continuing aspect of where our parapsychological equipment is going, new advances in computer software in order to communicate.
Well, I mean, there's no question about this, Chris, because instrumental transcommunication, anything to do with either the television screens, people getting phone calls, that's been documented from somebody who's passed. Certainly Tesla and Edison all talked about vibration, frequency, electricity being part of this. So that doesn't surprise me. In fact, I think that's where we're going to finally get our big breakthrough.
I do too.
But this issue of artificial intelligence being tossed into it, is it your theory then that IA is just another arm of this? Is going to be
I
a
believe
big?
So.
Okay.
I believe it may be the processes of what we would call the Antichrist. You see these movies on the Terminator, these other movies where the computers are taking over. Is that such a far-fetched idea? These machines may become self-aware. They could look at us as basically insects and want to eradicate us. Most machines now reproduce themselves, and each time it seems that they are becoming better and better. So is that the programmer, or is that the machine itself? Is it becoming self-aware? And if it's becoming self-aware, could there be a more diabolical aspect to it? The destruction and the end of humanity.
Well, there are tons of articles written out there. There's some things on YouTube and television that talks about the threat of artificial intelligence to mankind. And of course, there's an equal amount saying that artificial intelligence is the way to completely improve our lives. So, I mean, we've got a split there. But what you're saying is there's evil afoot and perhaps influencing where the direction of artificial intelligence, social media, where that's all heading. What's your basis for that?
Well, if you think about it, okay, let's look at the religious aspect of it again.
Okay.
There is good people. Good people do good things. I've had encounters where I truly believe I have encountered an angel. And basically the person looked just as normal as you or I, but there was something different. There was an energy. There was almost an ethereal aspect about him, and a calming sense of serenity and peace. And when I walked away from this incident, when I encountered this, I did truly believe I had been in the presence of an angel. In the same regard, I've also been in the presence of very, very dark aspects. And not only in spiritual aspect, like a human dark energy, but what I believe to also have been a demonic. I've also been to locations throughout the United States where I walked into a forest and it was like the hair on the back of my head stood up, and it just felt rancid. It felt dark. It felt evil.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't get out of there fast enough. But now think of yourself in this regard. If I was the devil, and I wanted to pretend I didn't exist, like I said, that's the devil's greatest illusion, is that he doesn't exist. How would you contact your followers? How would you motivate your followers to do dark things, to do evil things? And that would be through technology, because everybody's interconnected. Everybody can communicate with each other, especially today, instantaneously with all parts of the world. And like I said, how many of these people on social media are picking up bats and rocks and throwing things at the other group that they don't agree with? In the old days, we would have discussions. We would have debates. Now it's, I hate you, and I could just kill you. And literally, they could. And it's the revelry that is sparking this darkness in this world. You know, on the dark web, you can get almost anything. You can get pedophiles can get children from.
Oh my God!
You know, drugs and all sorts of horrific aspects. You can watch somebody being murdered on screen on the dark web.
And in the old days, it took a lot of work for somebody that was really had a propensity towards that to get it. Nowadays, it's just a couple clicks on the computer, so I totally get it. I also find your religious direction interesting, because I read an article it actually came out in January of this year, where the head of the Russian Orthodox Church actually is warning people about the influence of the worldwide net. I see where you're coming from with that. And it's certainly something that's open for debate, because it does control us.
Right. Right. You know, you depend on everything with it anymore. Businesses, how many of us use money versus our debit cards? And of course, we've got these little terminals. We've got to insert this. One of those go down. In fact, I was at Walmart a couple weeks ago, and all of their terminals went down, and their ATM went down, and they didn't know what to do. People were trying to buy their food, and they couldn't buy it. We lost complete control, and it was like, okay, so, you know, how far have we lost our ability to control our destinies without the use of these electronics?
And how long are we going to go before we learn to wrest that control back? But we're going to be taking our final break here in just a second, my friends. So, folks, stay with us. What a discussion we're having on the internet and the other side. So stay with us. This is Paranormal Stakeout. We'll be back after this message.
They are here, and they've been here for thousands of years, making their presence known in the shadows. They might be seen by a lonely motorist on a deserted road late at night, or by a frightened and confused husband in the bedroom he is sharing with his wife. But who are they? What do they want? Why are they here? Perhaps most concerning, has the government been aware of their presence all along? The new book by Eli Marzulli, UFO Disclosure, the 70-year cover-up exposed, delves into the world of UFOs. Can full disclosure be soon? Order now and receive a free hour and 37-minute DVD on the UFO phenomenon. UFOs are real. Get both the book and the DVD, a $40 value, for only $19.99. To order your book and DVD today, go to lamarzulli.net. That's LAMARZULLI.net.
Christopher Fulton is a survivor of the national security state. All he wanted to do was preserve history when he acquired a Cartier watch from the estate of President Kennedy's personal secretary. But that simple act set off a terrible chain reaction. He was pursued by the U.S. Justice Department and the FBI, thrust into the middle of the U.S. government's Assassination Records Review Board, even monitored and pursued by the Russian government. All because that Cartier watch was the missing link of evidence, a timepiece worn by JFK that fateful day in Dallas, a link resulting in Christopher being incarcerated and attacked for 9 years because he opened a hidden chapter in history. The intriguing journey outlined fully in Christopher Fulton's memoir, The Inheritance, is available now through TrineDay.com or Amazon.com. The Inheritance, Poisoned Fruit of JFK's Assassination by Christopher and Michelle Fulton is a must-read, an incredible tale of how easily our own government can overrule justice. The Inheritance, Poisoned Fruit of JFK's Assassination.
And we are back, folks. Thanks for sticking with us and listening to this absolutely fascinating conversation. My guest tonight is Christopher George. His website is Anubis Paranormal, spelling ANUBIS paranormal.wixsite, wixsite.com/APRO. You can also get a hold of him at Anubis Paranormal Research Org at gmail.com. Also, I'd like you to invite all of you to check out the great programming on the X-Zone Radio and Television Broadcast Network. All you need to go to is www, there's those three letters again, .xzb.net to check out all the terrific programming on the X-Zone Radio and Television Broadcast Network. I really would like to invite you to go to my website at www. I have a whole different perception of that now, Chris. www.paranormalstakeout.com, and you can also find out more about my paranormal team down here in Florida at www.paranormalfbi.com. The W's have got me all mixed up there, Chris. Okay, look.
Well, it kind of spooks you when you start to think about it.
Yeah. Okay. We've talked about all the evils out there, and there's evil, Chris, and we've seen it in all aspects, not just the internet, but people in general. But taking into account your words, your studies, what do we do? What do we do to change this, or is it too late?
You know, that's going to be the biggest question of all, and is there an answer? I don't know for sure. I think that we have to kind of try and find that balance of humanity once again. We need to be able to talk to one another using our own communication, not a phone or a
Amen
computer.
to that.
And, I mean, again, it's a great resource, it's a great tool, but so much harm has been done because of it. And you can fake anything, like we were talking, and people are going to believe it. It's going to be like War of the Worlds back in the 30s when Orson Welles broadcasted and everybody believed it was real. Somebody could claim that a missile strike was taking place, and who's to say that we could not respond or would respond? The government believing that it's a possibility that there's an actual missile strike from North Korea or Russia or China, for that matter. And we've got to be aware of our technology. We've got to look at it as friend or foe. And we've got to be able to have consequences for the actions that are out there. We've got to be able to look, and parents in particular with kids today, they are so impressionable. Say, okay, you can use the internet, you can use the phone, especially young children that are becoming more and more indoctrinated every day by social media, by some of the things that are on television that would never have been around when I was a child.
There's no question, but Chris, those are great words. How do we do it? How do we change the perception, the direction of how people react and what they want today in a society of I need it now, I want it now? How do we change that mindset?
we're always looking for instant gratification, and that's the problem with the internet and the computers of today. Is it's right there. It's spontaneous and just information right there.
Mm-hmm.
And we're becoming more and more hungry for this. And currently I'm working in the veterinary science field.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say I might not get back into the park ranger work, because that's my first true love of my profession. But so many people will come in with their pets, and they'll say, the doctor will diagnose the pet and so forth. And then they'll come up with, well, I checked on Google, and that's not what they said. So now they're taking the word of a computer over the word of a trained, certified veterinarian. And that happens even in the human medical field.
God, absolutely.
But they put more trust into their computer and Google than any other person. And that, again, is where do we draw the line? To be honest with you, Larry, I have been just banging my brain trying to figure out how we can pull ourselves back from the abyss. And we may not be able to.
Well, we can only hope. But what does all this mean? Let's take this back to the world of paranormal research and investigation. What does all this mean to those of us that are actually researching, investigating, trying to find out what the answers are on the other side? What does all this mean to us?
Well, two things that I see. Either the technology is going to get better and better, and we do make breakthroughs with our technology.
Okay.
Or it could harm the paranormal field with people who don't know quite how to use it. Number one, are misinterpreting the data that is coming out, because again, a lot of the equipment that we use is based upon programming, computer programming.
Mm-hmm.
I see a lot more of that taking place in our field. But there again is, when it does happen, when that communication finally is established, how is it going to be received? It's like, for instance, if extraterrestrial life wanted to contact us, they could very well do it through our technology, because it would be so primitive that it would be easy to tap into.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But what will be the social repercussions of these things when it does happen? All of our belief systems, all of our historical aspects could change forever, either for the good or the bad. But once that communication is made, whether it be through departed loved ones
mm-hmm.
or through extraterrestrials, it will have a major impact. And from that day forward, we could be talking to the dead like we talk to each other on the phone.
Okay, and that's where I wanted to go. So it is your opinion that if used properly, these breakthroughs will fulfill Turning's apparent wishes, and there's no doubt he did have an interest in the paranormal. But
Mm-hmm.
your belief is, if used properly, this is going to be where our big breakthrough is. How do we, as investigators, now I'm going to differ a little bit with you on our equipment. Our technology overall in the human world is improving, but I don't see it improving in the world of paranormal research. I see us stagnated, and that's just my opinion.
Right.
What do we need to do to take this technology forward to make our work more successful, to collect this evidence that we need?
Well, one of the things is para-unity. And, we have discussed this before.
Yes, we have.
And both you and I are very, very supportive in this ideology. But the thing is, with para-unity comes strength, number one. It also opens up avenues to contact people who are creative, who are scientists, that could
mm-hmm.
help us on this pathway to develop better equipment, to build better programming in order to achieve these goals. Each journey begins with a first step, and we're taking those steps, but it's been very, very slow, and it's because, I hate to say it, again, social media, YouTube, and everything else, everybody out there has got a ghost website or a ghost site on YouTube.
There's a ton of them. Yep.
And it muddies the water, because I hate to say it, that a lot of these people are not professional. They're armchair Saturday night wannabe paranormal investigators. They watch a couple TV shows, which basically isn't really anything more than entertainment. Yeah, there may be some real truth to what they're broadcasting, but to most people, they go, oh, I can do this. This is easy. No, you can't. You have got to be trained. You've got to be prepared. You've got to know what you're doing. And unfortunately, right now, everybody is so-centered with their own groups or individual aspects, because they think they might get a TV show, or they might get something. You know, they'll get 1,000 hits and they'll make $700 on YouTube. It's not what we're about. A true psychologist, a true investigator, is in it for the science and to try to create something that will open the doorways to understanding the other side.
And that's without question where we need to go. And until we understand that as a field, I'm with you. It's going to be tougher to make those breakthroughs. And if there's one thing that my audience, I'm sure, almost gets tired of me hearing about it, we've got to come together and we've got to create standards and training in order to reach this goal. Any final words? We're in our last minute here. I'd like any final words from you about where this is going to go. Where do you think we're going to be in 10, 15, 20 years?
Well, with the advances of technology, if we can get groups together and get scientists and programmers and electronics physicists and things like that onto the bandwagon of para-unity to all work together in order to strive for a common goal. Oh, the opportunities, like I said, we could be talking to our loved ones like just on the telephone. We could probably be seeing them on the screen, talking with them.
On that note, we're going to close tonight. Chris George, thank you so much for being part of the show tonight. Thank you, all of you out there, for listening. This is Larry Lawson on Paranormal Stakeout. Take care, and we'll see all of you on the other side.
If you are looking for a safe, zero-calorie natural option to the harmful artificial sweeteners on the market today, Just Like Sugar is what you're looking for. Just Like Sugar is a wonderful natural alternative for those health-conscious people who choose a calorie-restricted diet with a great, pure, sweet flavor that tastes just like sugar. Just Like Sugar is a great natural option for people suffering from diabetes and may be useful in restricted diet programs where standard sugars are not allowed and does not cause a laxative effect of some other sweeteners. Just Like Sugar comprises a perfect blend of chicory root fiber, natural calcium, natural vitamin C, and Just Like Sugar's sweetness comes from the natural flavors from the peel of the orange. Just Like Sugar is a natural alternative to harmful artificial sweeteners and will change the way that you believe all natural sweetener products taste. Just Like Sugar is available at your local Whole Foods markets, Wild Oats markets, Henry's, Sun Harvest, and many other fine natural food stores in the U.S., Canada, and worldwide. They are here, and they've been here for thousands of years, making their presence known in the shadows. They might be seen by a lonely motorist on a deserted road late at night, or by a frightened and confused husband in the bedroom he is sharing with his wife. But who are they? What do they want? Why are they here? Perhaps most concerning, has the government been aware of their presence all along? The new book by Eli Marzulli, UFO Disclosure, the 70-year cover-up exposed, delves into the world of UFOs. Can full disclosure be soon? Order now and receive a free hour and 37-minute DVD on the UFO phenomenon. UFOs are real. Get both the book and the DVD, a $40 value, for only $19.99. To order your book and DVD today, go to lamarzulli.net. That's LAMARZULLI.net.
You have heard of the X Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV. plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X-Zone, Sci-Fi, and Horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.